now.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and you're watching this special broadcast of top stories from our studios here in the National Capital Region. Like always, this is your one-stop shop to understand what the news pulse of the day actually looks like. We will be talking about the CM conundrum in all these states that recently went to polls, more so over. We'll also take a look at what's happening on the 60th day of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. Some climate change and global warming stories as well, because here at News 9 Live we make it a point that we make sure climate change, which is of great significance, is something that we talk about every day. But first and foremost, we'll shift our focus to the severe cyclonic storm Michaung, which is likely to make landfall near Bapatla today. With a maximum sustained wind speed of 90 to 100 kilometers, gusting up to 110 kilometers. Take a look at some of these pictures on your screens. Completely dilapidated roads, buildings crumbling. A wall collapse has also claimed a couple of lives in Tamil Nadu. And it's not just Tamil Nadu that is reeling with this particular cyclonic storm. It is also the coast of Andhra Pradesh, Pondicherry under its effect as well. Life completely thrown out of gear. What seemed like a beginning traffic snarl at the right in the initial phases has turned out to be catastrophic in these coastal belts. The system is likely to move nearly northwards, which is parallel and close to South Andhra Pradesh's coast, and across the South Andhra Pradesh coast between Nellore and Machilipatnam. Again, some visuals of the Chennai airport that was completely drowned in water, inundated several runways that affected a lot of aviation activity. Now, Tamil Nadu has declared a public holiday in 4 of its districts. 8 districts of Andhra Pradesh are also on hefty IMD alert. Over 9,600 people, that's nearly 10,000 people, were evacuated on Monday. They were moved to 236 relief camps in 8 locations, all as part of precautionary measures. Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, who was monitoring the situation right from the get-go, deputed as many as 13 ministers of the state to coordinate the rescue and relief operations. About 350 boats were mobilized to evacuate people from these inundated areas. Life, like I said, completely thrown out of gear. Pictures on your screens from Chennai to Andhra Pradesh to Pondicherry. People right now worried about what might happen once the severe cyclonic storm. And take a look at that. Even as the cyclonic storm develops off the coast of Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh. These are some scenes that people were witnessing yesterday evening and were hoping for as little damage to property and loss of life on the next intervening day. Nearly 10,000 people have been evacuated, and this with the help of over 700 personnel from the National Disaster Relief Force, the State Disaster Relief Force, the police, the fire tenders and the rescue departments. They've all been tasked with rescuing people in these inundated areas, the high-risk areas. About 250 of these workers were involved in the rescue operations in Chennai. Visuals from Bapatla in Andhra Pradesh, where the cyclone is expected to make landfall. These are visuals of the early morning of today, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to the Vijayawada Municipal Corporation, it has issued a directive to evacuate people from vulnerable areas in the city. The Municipal Corporation has arranged toll-free numbers which we will make sure that we flash them on our screens very soon. And there are various WhatsApp numbers that are also doing the rounds to report any cyclone-related complaints. Andhra Pradesh municipal corporations from across various districts, they've appealed to people to keep children indoors as much as possible. to avoid potential accidents arising from heavy rain and runoffs with the severe cyclonic storm that's potentially going to make landfall today. The NTR district administration has announced holidays for schools and colleges on Tuesday, which is today. Now, 12,000 fishermen, they've been shifted to camps in the Krishna district. The Krishna district administration has geared up itself to face the cyclone Michaung, which is essentially a Burmese word, means strength in Myanmarese. The district officials have evacuated around 12,000 people to relief camps from the 63 fishermen particular villages. District Collector Raja Babu, he was monitoring the relief activities and the evacuation of fishermen from the 63 fishermen-oriented particular villages. The collector also inspected a few cyclone centers at Etimoga in Avanigada and Edurumondi villages and also interacted with the people who were taking shelter over there. As of now, ladies and gentlemen, the first storm to hit Andhra Pradesh this year is going to be Michaung. Now, Michaung, which a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it, is supposedly supposed to be pronounced as Michaung, is named by Myanmar and means strength and resilience. It is the fourth tropical storm formed over the Bay of Bengal this year, but it is the first to hit the coast of Andhra Pradesh. Now, Andhra Pradesh, it is not something new for the coast of Andhra Pradesh to be hit by severe cyclonic storms. It has reeled under its effects under various other cyclones in the past as well, and it knows how to prepare itself, how to evacuate the people. Meanwhile, Cyclone Midhi, which made landfall in November in Bangladesh, also came close, but then again, it did not affect Andhra Pradesh like other cyclones have in the past. Cyclone Hamoon in October also hit the coast of Bangladesh, did not necessarily affect Andhra Pradesh per se. Cyclone Mocha in May hit Myanmar and parts of Bangladesh, again sparing Andhra Pradesh. So it's the first storm to hit Andhra Pradesh this year, albeit it's not the first storm that has developed in the Bay of Bengal. Now, Michaung is likely to coast between Nellore and Machilipatnam, which is close to Bapatla, on Tuesday afternoon. So this afternoon is when the potential landfall is going to take place, is going to happen. Schools have been shut. Nearly 10,000 people have been evacuated in Tamil Nadu. Nearly 12,000 fishermen evacuated in various fishermen villages. The NDRF, the SDRF, the local police, the local authorities, municipal corporations urging children to stay indoors to avert any kinds of runoffs because the speeds, heavy rains with winds with a speed of 90 to 100 kilometers per hour, which can also gust up to 110 kilometers, accompanying with severe cyclonic storm. It's not easy to even stand outside in these kind of situations. Several trains have been cancelled, aviation activity has been hit, traffic snarls, and life completely thrown out of gear. Let's hope for good sense to prevail and as little damage to life and property as can be. Well, next up, shifting our focus to some political developments. Of course, the results were out, and not just for the 4 states. Mizoram results were also out, and it seems like if one was looking at a BJP versus Congress kind of a scenario, it would be not just 3:1, might just end up being 4:1, BJP getting more seats than the Congress in Mizoram as well. Now, take a look at this. Now that the assembly elections are done, they're dusted. But the political landscape, it's again buzzing with anticipation. Anticipation of chief ministerial faces. The chief of the Zoram People's Movement, Lal Rohma, he will assume charge in Mizoram, while Revanth Reddy is the front runner to be the chief minister in Telangana. But who is going to be the chief minister in Chhattisgarh, in Madhya Pradesh, and in Rajasthan, the key Hindi heartland states? Let's have a look at the probable CM faces in Rajasthan first. Ladies and gentlemen, hectic activity is being reported from the residence of Vasundhara Raje, the 2-time chief minister herself. Then there is, of course, Om Mathur, who is an old RSS hand. He is an old RSS hand. But take a look at this. You've got Om Mathur, he's a Rajya Sabha MP, former RSS Pracharak. His name crops up every time when there's such talk in the state. Then you have Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. He is the other big name that is being talked about. A Rajput face, he is considered close to the party's central leadership. Now, if you were to add names to this list, it would be the name of Arjun Ram Meghwal. He's the other union minister whose name is doing the rounds. He's a former bureaucrat and a much respected Dalit face in the party and in the state of Rajasthan. Also in the reckoning is Balaknath, the Chancellor of Baba Mastanath University. Now, Balaknath is also known as the Yogi of Rajasthan and is also a member of parliament from Awar. Now, our colleague had an interaction with Balaknath earlier as well, and I'll just quickly confirm if, of course, my team has that interaction, and we'll play that out. Shalini, do we have that interaction with us? Well, let's quickly play that out. Our colleague speaking to Balaknath before we go on to who's going to be the chief minister in Rajasthan.
बीजेपी के वरिष्ठ नेता, सांसद और विधायक बाबा बालकनाथ हमारे साथ हैं। सर, आपने शानदार जीत दर्ज की है और बीजेपी ने भी शानदार जीत दर्ज की है राजस्थान में, लेकिन अब सवाल ये है कि जिस तरह से आप लोगों ने अशोक गहलोत की सरकार को, कांग्रेस की सरकार को वहां पर धराशायी किया, तो अब बीजेपी किस तरह से जनता के बीच में जाएगी? जो आप लोगों ने वादे किए उसको कैसे पूरा करेंगे?
नहीं, तो वादे तो देखिए, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व पर तो आज पूरा दुनिया विश्वास करता है। जो उन्होंने कहा 2014 से लेकर आज वर्तमान समय तक जिन जिन योजनाओं की घोषणा उन्होंने की, उन योजनाओं को तय समय सीमा से भी पहले उन योजनाओं तक को घर तक पहुंचाया, उन योजनाओं को हर एक परिवार तक पहुंचाया है। तो इसमें संदेह तो पूरी दुनिया को नहीं है। आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का नेतृत्व इतना सक्षम है और इतना जवाबदेही जनता के प्रति उनकी रहती है कि आज जो भी वो कार्य करते, जो भी वो घोषणा करते, वो योजना पूरी पारदर्शिता के साथ में और पूरा लाभ लोगों को मिलता है। कि ऐसा नहीं कि गहलोत की तरह कि जो योजनाओं में भी खाते हैं, जिन्होंने राशन किट वितरण नाम की योजना बनाई, उसमें जो भी लूण मिर्च डाला वो भी नकली, उसमें भी मिलावट, और मिलावट के साथ साथ में जो 200-250 का एक पैकेट बनता था उसको भी 700-800 की रेंज में इन लोगों ने खरीदा, उसमें से भी भ्रष्टाचार कर लोगों का राशन तक खा गए लोग। तो ऐसे लोगों पर अब जनता विश्वास नहीं करती। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जो कहा है वो राजस्थान की जनता का पूरा होगा और तय समय सीमा के अंदर होगा, ये संदेह आज दुनिया में किसी को नहीं।
लेकिन उन वादों को जमीन पर कौन पहुंचाएगा, यानी कि मुख्यमंत्री कौन बनेगा राजस्थान में?
देखिए, ऐसा है कि आप ये बार बार सवाल पूरी मीडिया पूछ रही है, इस सवाल का कोई औचित्य नहीं बनता है, क्योंकि आज हमारे पास में एक ऐसा व्यक्तित्व, ऐसा नेतृत्व हमारे देश के पास में है कि जिसका आज पूरी दुनिया उनके पीछे चलती है, पूरी दुनिया उनको मानती है और दुनिया के बड़े बड़े देश भी उनकी बातों को सुनते हैं, उनके पद चिन्हों पर चलने की कोशिश भी करते हैं, चलना भी चाहते हैं, चल भी रहे हैं। तो ऐसे ही व्यक्तित्व हमारे हैं कि वो जो एक कार्यकर्ता भी वो है हमारी पार्टी के, एक कार्यकर्ता भी उनसे प्रेरणा लेता है, एक विधायक भी, एक सांसद भी, एक मुख्यमंत्री भी, एक मंत्री भी, हर एक व्यक्ति आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से प्रेरणा लेता है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री, हमारे कार्यकर्ता, हमारे मुख्यमंत्री, हमारे सब कुछ माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी हैं। ये उनका विषय है, वो अपने आप जो करेंगे अच्छा करेंगे और नेतृत्व तो उनका ही रहेगा। उन्हीं के मार्गदर्शन में हमारा प्रदेश और आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी का प्रत्येक प्रदेश उनके मार्गदर्शन में ही आगे चल रहा है।
आप मुख्यमंत्री की जिम्मेदारी लेने को तैयार हैं?
ऐसा कोई विषय ही नहीं है ना भाई, ये विषय ही नहीं है। ये माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो हमें उनका मार्गदर्शन मिल रहा है, हमारा तो यही जीवन में बड़ा सौभाग्य है कि उनके मार्गदर्शन में हमें अपने देश के लोगों की, अपने प्रकृति की और अपने देश की उन्नति के लिए, देश के विकास के लिए हमें सेवा करने का अवसर मिल रहा है।
जिम्मेदारी दी जाती है आपको? तो
जिम्मेदारी दे रखी है ना भाई, इतना बड़ा सौभाग्य छोटे से जीवन में।
मुख्यमंत्री की बात,
सांसद बनाया, पार्टी ने टिकट दिया, जनता ने सहयोग कर आशीर्वाद दिया, उसके बाद पार्टी ने विधायक का टिकट दिया और आज तिजारा की जनता ने फिर से एक बड़े साथ के साथ में विजयी माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की ओर देखकर किया है। तो ये सब उनकी सेवा का, और हमारा तो सौभाग्य, कितनी बड़ी सेवा हमें वर्तमान में मिली हुई है, इसके आगे और क्या चाहिए? कुछ भी नहीं।
क्योंकि सवाल इसके पूछा जा रहा है कि जिस दिन से आपको टिकट मिला तो उस दिन से चर्चा ये थी कि अगर बीजेपी वहां जीती है तो महंत बालकनाथ राजस्थान के मुख्यमंत्री हो सकते हैं।
ऐसी कोई चर्चा नहीं है, आप सब लोग अपने अपने दिमाग से सवाल बनाते हैं। सब कुछ हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी हैं और हम सब कार्यकर्ता सौभाग्यशाली हैं इस देश में, इस जीवन में हम, कि हमें इतना बड़ा अवसर उनके मार्गदर्शन में सेवा करने का मिल रहा है।
लेकिन हम सवाल वही है कि अगर जिम्मेदारी आपको दी जाती है तो आपको लगता है कि आप सक्षम हैं उसको निभाने में?
हम तो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में और उनके मार्गदर्शन में चलने वाले लोग हैं और उनके मार्गदर्शन में ही चलेंगे।
Well, now, the names of BJP State Chief C.P. Joshi, who's also Member of Parliament and member of the Jaipur Royalty, Diya Kumari, and Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, they're all part of the list. Who's going to be the Chief Minister? Well, we'll soon find out, but we have a couple of front-runners, if you could put that out on a list. Now, several rounds of meetings are taking place at the residence of central leaders in Delhi and in Jaipur before a decision is finally taken. We shall keep you updated. Do stay with News 9 Live for more. But shifting our focus from Rajasthan to the state of Chhattisgarh, where the victory for BJP came as a surprise for many. But now when the party has gotten a full majority of its own, the big question starting at the party leadership again is who will be the Chief Minister? A lot of names in the fray again. Former Chief Minister Raman Singh is also among contention. News 9 spoke to the three-time Chief Minister Raman Singh about his chances of taking office as the CM and what will be the new government's top priorities. Take a look.
डॉक्टर रमन सिंह हमारे साथ में हैं। बहुत ही अनुभवी राजनीतिज्ञ रहे हैं, मुख्यमंत्री रहे हैं। सर, यहाँ पर देख रहे हैं आपके पास तमाम अलग अलग क्षेत्रों से लोग मिलने आ रहे हैं, बहुत सारी चर्चाएं हो रही हैं। अभी तो जीत को सेलिब्रेट किया जा रहा है, लेकिन पार्टी भी रणनीति बना रही होगी कि आगे किस दिशा में बढ़ना है, कैसे बढ़ना है। कुछ चर्चा हुई है केंद्रीय नेतृत्व के साथ?
अभी तो केंद्रीय नेतृत्व से, जो कि आज विधायकों से परिचय और उनको मुख्यालय बुलाया गया था, उनसे बातचीत हो रही है। मगर पार्टी की रणनीति या कार्य योजना तो एक ही है। जो घोषणा पत्र में जिन बिंदुओं को या मोदी जी ने जिस योजना की गारंटी की बात कही है, उसका 100% क्रियान्वयन ये सरकार जो बीजेपी की बन रही है उसकी प्राथमिकता होगी और पहले दिन से ही उस पर काम शुरू होगा।
मुख्यमंत्री कोई भी बने, ये तो अभी चर्चा का विषय है, लेकिन पहली कैबिनेट में क्या डिसीजन हो सकता है, जो बड़ी बातें होंगी जिस पर मुहर लगाई जाएगी आपके हिसाब से?
पहले कैबिनेट पे हम लोग चर्चा में, बातचीत में जो निर्णय संगठन की स्तर में हुआ है, जो घोषणा पत्र में बड़े मुद्दे हैं, जैसे 25 दिसंबर को 2 साल का बोनस हमको देना है। तो 2 साल का बोनस किसानों को 4200 करोड़ देना है, पहले दिन ही वो तय होगा। दूसरा, महिलाओं की योजना 12,000 रुपया की, उसके बारे में चर्चा करके उसके क्रियान्वयन की दिशा में बात करना है। तो ऐसे बहुत सारी योजनाएं हैं जो घोषणा पत्र में डाला है।
एक चीज़ और सर, बहुत सारी चर्चाएं हो रही हैं, चूंकि छत्तीसगढ़ में आप सबसे कद्दावर नेता हैं, आपका नाम सबसे आगे चल रहा है। खुलकर वैसे कोई नहीं बोल रहा, लेकिन हम ये मान रहे हैं कि शायद अगले 24-48 घंटों में नाम तय हो जाए। आप कहाँ देखते हैं इस चर्चा को? इस चर्चा को किस तरह से देखते हैं?
ये विधायक दल की बैठक होगी और दल का नेता चुना जाएगा और केंद्रीय पर्यवेक्षक आएंगे, इसकी सारी प्रक्रिया पूरी हो जाएगी। मुझे नहीं लगता 2-3 दिन के अंदर ये सारी बातें हो जाएगी।
आप पहले भी मुख्यमंत्री रहे हैं, अभी दोबारा मौका मिला तो सेवा करने के लिए आप तैयार हैं?
हम सब तैयार हैं, पार्टी का जो निर्देश होगा उसका क्रियान्वयन के लिए।
बिल्कुल। सर, एक सवाल और भी कई चेहरे हैं, चर्चा चल रही, बीजेपी में कई चेहरे, बात तो आप मानते हैं?
नहीं, रहेंगे ही, स्वाभाविक है।
And moving on, 13 people were killed after a gunfight at a remote border village in Manipur's Tengnoupal district broke out. Police teams that reached the scene of the gun battle found the bodies in what is being described as a factional feud. However, the officials said that no arms or ammunition was found near the bodies. The identities of the deceased are yet to be established. Tengnoupal district, it shares a porous border with Myanmar, if that's something to go by, ladies and gentlemen. This is a tweet that has been put out by the Manipur police, where it says that on the 4th of December, in a gunfight between unknown armed miscreants at a particular village in Saibol in Tengnoupal district under the Machi police station, 13 people have been killed. District police and security forces rushed to the spot. A case has been registered and the investigation is currently underway. Next up, our segment on the 60th day of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. Latest updates from the war front. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. Well, now the war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 60th day. Let's get you the latest update on your screens first. Take a look at this. Israeli forces pressed ahead with their air and ground bombardment of the southern Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, 2 people were killed and a house was destroyed in an Israeli strike in Khan Yunis. Khan Yunis, that particular place in South Gaza, in the south portion of the Strip, where the Israeli Defense Forces are saying they are going to expand their operations. The second phase of their ground operations inside the Gaza Strip. Now, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, he has called out Netanyahu. He says Israeli Prime Minister is going to be tried as a war criminal. This even as over 1.7 million Palestinians have been internally displaced in Gaza, according to international institutions. A total of 85 Israelis and 180 Palestinians have been released so far in terms of all those hostage deals. This is exclusive of the other foreign nationals, mostly being Russian dual nationals and Thai nationals that have also been let go of by the Hamas. Over 1,400 aid trucks have been let inside Gaza, and nearly 16,000 people, including more than 6,600 children, have been killed in the war since October 7. Now, Israeli airstrikes and artillery barrages have overwhelmed hospitals in Khan Yunis and Rafah, and both these places are coping with a surge in casualties. In Rafah, massive craters have marked the aftermath of an Israeli airstrike. Take a look at that, with residents extracting bodies of the young from the rubble. Despite being designated a quote-unquote safe area by the Israeli forces, residents reported coming under attack, resulting in casualties. Israel contends it designates safe areas to protect Gaza civilians, but the United Nations officials and Gazans both argue that real-time adherence is challenging due to inconsistent internet access and unreliable electricity. Now, early on Monday, an Israeli strike in Khan Yunis, the southern part of the Strip, resulted in 2 fatalities and the destruction of a residence. Displaced residents who had relocated from the north seeking safety now once again find themselves without refuge. Southern Gaza, already densely populated, has seen schools and hospitals converted into shelters for civilians, furthering the exacerbated calls for a housing crisis. Now, Palestine TV broadcast footage depicting the aftermath of an Israeli operation in the occupied West Bank that resulted in the death of 2 Palestinians in a car and the apprehension of 2 others. The official Palestinian news agency, Wafa, it reported the incident without promptly furnishing additional details. Videos on your screens. And moving on, Israeli forces launched a raid on Kalandia in West Bank on the 4th of December. Now, this operation involved the deployment of military vehicles and forces who threw stun grenades and conducted rooftop interventions in the entire area. Now, notably, no official statement has been released by the military or the police regarding the incident. Tensions have been rising in the West Bank. We were just talking about the apprehension and the killings of 2 Palestinians. Meanwhile, tensions have been rising, and they have been rising for the past 18 months. and things have gotten even more intense since the October 7th attack by Hamas. Israeli forces have intensified the operations as there are more arrests and frequent raids that can be seen in the West Bank, causing clashes in the entirety of the area. Video footage. It has come out. It reveals Israeli soldiers that are engaged in a street altercation in Kalkilia in West Bank. Now earlier, the official Palestinian agency Wafa, it reported that Israeli forces during a bank raid had killed the 2 Palestinians in a car and detained the others 2 without immediate details of why it had done so. Some visuals of the fighting on your screens. Now in response to the Kalkilia incident, an Israeli military spokesperson mentioned that quote-unquote counter-terrorism activity will be taken up, promising further details that are going to be furnished later on. The Israeli army spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, he announced that the conflict with Hamas has now entered a new phase. The military's objective is to pursue the armed group throughout the Gaza Strip while minimizing harm to civilians. According to Hagari, Hamas initiated the conflict by breaching the mediated truce deal.
We're pursuing Hamas wherever Hamas is hiding, in the north and in the south. Every rocket launcher, weapons depot, command and control center, senior commander, underground infrastructure, and any hideout where our hostages may be held. Our war is against Hamas, not against the people of Gaza.
But diplomatic ripples and diplomatic global alliance is also being affected with this new phase. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, he's come out and said on Monday that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will likely be tried as a war criminal over Israel's ongoing offensive in the Gaza Strip. Now, in a speech to a meeting of an Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC committee in Istanbul, Erdogan said Netanyahu admitted that he is pursuing expansionist policies, adding that defending Gaza right now is the same as defending other Islamic cities in the region. Quote unquote, beyond being a war criminal, Netanyahu, who is the butcher of Gaza right now, will be tried as the butcher of Gaza, just as Milosevic was tried. Listen in.
Avrupa'nın birçok ülkesinde göçmen nüfusun kahir ekseriyetini oluşturan Müslümanlar her gün bir başka yabancı düşmanı, ırkçı, ayrımcı, şu anda Gazze kasabı olan Netanyahu bir savaş suçlusu olmanın ötesinde kesinlikle Gazze kasabı olarak aynen Milosevic nasıl yargılandıysa bu da yargılanacaktır. 67 sınırlarında başkenti Kudüs olan bağımsız, egemen Gazze kasabı Netanyahu meselenin Gazze veya Ramallah olmadığını, yayılmacı hedefler peşinde koştuğunu kameralar önünde bizzat ifşa etti. Dolayısıyla bugün Gazze'yi ve Filistin'i savunmak demek, Kudüs'le birlikte Mekke'yi, Medine'yi, İstanbul'u savunmak, Şam'ı, Beyrut'u, Bağdat'ı ve diğer İslam beldelerini de savunmak demektir.
Well, now Turkey, which supports a two-state solution to the decades-old conflict, has sharply criticized Israel over its campaign in Gaza. And taking a look at some other top global developments, an Albanian opposition member of parliament, he disrupted a plenary session of the parliament on Monday, igniting smoke bombs and setting paper on fire, accusing the government of trying to silence the opposition. Take a look at some of these pictures. Democratic Party of Albanian MP, Flamur Noka, held the smoke bomb in the center of the parliament chamber, where Prime Minister Edi Rama's Socialist Party has a majority. That's the opposition MP right in the center of the parliament. And just last month, prosecutors charged the de facto leader of the Democratic Party of Albanian, Sali Berisha, a former prime minister, and his son-in-law with corruption over a land deal involving grounds of a sports club. They accused him of using his influence as premier from 2005 to 2009 to exert pressure, quote-unquote, for the conversion of privatization procedures in favor of others, including his daughter's husband. And at least 60 plus people have died in floods and landslides in northern Tanzania. That's in addition to the 85 injured in Manyara region. Search and rescue operations are underway amid fears that some bodies might be trapped in the mud.
More than 50 people have died in floods and landslides in northern Tanzania, the president's office said on Monday. That's in addition to 85 injured in the Manyara region. Search and rescue operations are underway, Manyara Region Commissioner Queen Sandiga told reporters, amid fears that some bodies might be trapped in the mud. President Samia Suluhu Hassan said that in the village of Katesh in Hanang district, 100 houses had been swallowed by a landslide.
I want to say that I have instructed that all efforts are directed towards rescuing those who were involved in this tragedy and to prevent more deaths.
Tanzania's disaster follows hundreds of deaths in Somalia and Kenya since seasonal rains began in October. A combination of the El Niño and Indian Ocean dipole weather phenomena has caused severe flooding that has also forced hundreds of thousands from their homes. Scientists say climate change is causing extreme weather events that are more intense and more frequent.
And moving on, in Paris, there is no plan B for the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Summer Games. This coming from the French sports minister, who was out there corroborating the same on Monday after a man who was armed with a knife and a hammer killed a German tourist and left 2 people wounded near the Eiffel Tower area on Saturday. Now, the 26-year-old suspect, a French national arrested after the attack, had pledged allegiance to Islamic State in a video recorded beforehand. Anti-terrorism prosecutor Jean-Francis Ricard also confirmed the same on Sunday. The attack occurred on the Quai de Grenelle, a spot also included in the plans for the opening ceremony of the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. Asked if the government was mulling a change to its plan of holding the ceremony on the River Seine, with several 100,000 spectators expected along its banks amid security threats, the minister said it was not being worked on by the government. Some 160 boats will be set off on the 26th of July from the Pont de Austerlitz for a 6-kilometer journey to the Pont de Lana in the particular ceremony event for the Olympics. And next up, take a look at this. I'm pretty sure a lot of people use this application as well. Music firm, app, company, Spotify. It's going to lay off around 1,500 employees, or about 17% of its headcount, according to the music streaming company Giant that laid out a statement on Monday. It is the 3rd round of layoffs at Spotify this year alone.
Spotify will lay off around 1,500 employees, or 17% of its headcount. The music streaming giant said Monday it was to bring down costs. It's the 3rd round of layoffs at the company this year. It let go 600 of its staff in January and 200 more in June. Spotify CEO Daniel Ek sent a letter to employees explaining the company hired more in 2020 and 2021 due to the lower cost of capital. He further said the firm considered smaller reductions over the next 2 years, but he went with a larger cut now due to the gap between Spotify's financial goals and current operational costs. Spotify invested more than $1 billion to build up its podcast business, signing celebrities like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, as well as Kim Kardashian. It also expanded its market presence in most countries as it tries to reach 1 billion users by the next decade. It currently has 601 million users, up from 345 million at the end of 2020. The company swung to a profit in the third quarter, helped by price hikes and its streaming service and subscriber growth in all regions. Job cuts have been a feature of this year for tech companies. Some have begun reducing their workforce again recently, with announcements coming from Amazon and Microsoft-owned LinkedIn.
Moving on, cruise ships operators are steaming ahead to a potentially strong 2024. Travel agents said travelers have booked heavily for next year, even more than before the global health crisis.
Cruise ship operators are steaming ahead to a potentially strong 2024. US cruise operators and travel agents said travellers have booked heavily for next year, even more than before the global health crisis. Cruises are in demand as they are widely seen to be cheaper than land-based alternatives, and with such popularity, operators plan to hike prices in the coming months. One CEO described the market as extremely strong, and picked out the high-end luxury part of the sector as doing a roaring trade. One industry watcher said bookings made in November for next year were about a fifth higher than in the same period in 2019. Royal Caribbean Group CEO Jason Liberty also said recently that demand was outpacing 2019 levels by a wide margin. Trade body Cruise Lines International Association said about 35.7 million passengers are expected to set sail next year, up from 31.5 million in 2023. The figure is about 6% more than in 2019. But there is one big catch for cruise lines as demand soars. Bookings could be held back due to a lack of capacity. Carnival CEO Josh Weinstein said earlier this year volumes for next year will fall back as the company could run out of inventory to sell. Smaller operators also say volumes are overflowing.
And take a look at this. Next, American daredevil Brian Grubb has combined wake skating and base jumping to pull off a fearless stunt in Dubai, scooting across an infinity pool at the top of a skyscraper before leaping off the building and cruising to the beach below. Take a look.
Brian's off the ramp. because, you know, in a perfect world with that angle of ramp, you'd want to set up from over there to turn it, you know what I mean? And you don't have that. You have this much space.
Moving on, China's foreign ministry said on Monday that it is reasonable and legal both for the Chinese fishing boats to operate in the waters of the Whitsun Reef in South China Sea. This came after the Philippines deployed vessels to monitor what it said was an illegal presence of Chinese boats. The Philippine Coast Guard said on Sunday it has monitored the illegal presence of more than 135 Chinese maritime militia vessels at the reef in the South China Sea within the country's exclusive economic zone. A statement said that fleets have been ordered to carry out patrols in the vicinity of Whitsun Reef, which Manila calls the Julian Felipe Reef.
牛轭礁是中国南沙群岛的一部分，包括牛轭礁及其附近海域在内的南海相关海域，向来是中方渔船的重要作业区和避风点。中方渔船在该海域作业、避风合理合法，非方不应该说三道四。
And moving on, works have begun to secure and restore Bologna's leaning tower following fears it could essentially collapse. The 48-meter Garisenda Tower, which rises into the sky of the Italian city next to the taller Asinelli Tower, which is 97 meters. It was built back in 1109 and is one of Bologna's symbols. It is photographed by tourists from all over the world visiting the city in the central Italy, famous for its good food and red brick buildings. On the website of the municipality of Bologna, it says that a highly critical static situation caused by the deterioration of the materials that make up the base has been identified. Residents say they are concerned about the possible collapse of this iconic tower. Meanwhile, South Korea on Monday successfully conducted a flight of a solid fuel rocket carrying a satellite over the sea near Jeju Island amid a growing space race with neighboring North Korea. It was the third successful test of the rocket's technology after two others in March and December 2022 and involved technology developed at the state-run Agency for Defense Development and a booster and satellite produced by South Korea's Hanwha Systems. And the Christmas season commenced in Croatia and Slovenia on Sunday, with residents engaging in various outdoor activities. Take a look at this. In Zagreb, people visited the outdoor ice rink on Tomislavac Square for skating, and others enjoyed the Christmas market's food stands. Some Croatian origin tourists come to Zagreb for Christmas or Advent to experience the festive attractions as part of their traditions. Meanwhile, in Ljubljana, despite heavy snowfall, people gathered around the large-scale illuminated Christmas tree. Globally, for Christians, Advent signifies the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, marked by festive activities such as Christmas markets and illuminations. And in Edinburgh Zoo, visitors seized the opportunity to see the country's only 2 giant pandas before their 12-year stay concluded and they headed back to China. Access to the enclosure is going to be limited as the pandas Yang Guang and Tian Tian undergo preparations for their upcoming fight. Upcoming flight. Now, zookeepers have spent weeks acclimating the pandas to create their homely vibe for their visit and travel back to China. And they're going to be packed in crates for their expected journey. early in December. Now, originally, they arrived in Edinburgh back in the year 2011 under a 10-year agreement between the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland and the China Wildlife Conservation Association. Their stay was extended by 2 years due to the pandemic. Now, these two giant pandas are going to make their way back home. And whilst we're talking about pandas, what a great segue to move into our segment on climate change as well. Now, COP28 and its president, Sultan Al Jaber, he defended his commitment to the cause at the United Nations Climate Summit and affirmed his understanding and respect for climate science on the 4th of December. Addressing criticism sparked by his 21st November comments on fossil fuel phase-out, saying that things were being taken out of context to undermine COP28's work, Al Jaber had reportedly said earlier that there is, and I quote, no science or no scenario out there that says that the phase-out of fossil fuel is what's going to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius mark. Now, Al Jaber emphasized the need to consider the full context rather than focusing on isolated remarks. Listen in.
Let me say from the outset that everything this presidency has been working on, continues to work on, is focused on and centered around the science. I honestly think that there is some confusion out there and misrepresentation and misinterpretation. And I have repeatedly said in many occasions and in many different platforms that it is the science that have guided the principles of our strategy as COP28 presidency. And I've been very crystal clear about that, and I hope that this time I am clearer in getting this message across. The attempts to undermine the message that we keep repeating when it comes to how much we respect the science and how we ensured that the science is what dictates our strategy for our strategic imperatives and the objectives we want to deliver at COP28. One statement taken out of context with misrepresentation and misinterpretation that gets maximum coverage. Again, I respect facts, I respect numbers, and these are the facts on the ground. Unfortunately, I have called on parties many times to find common ground, build consensus, and come to me with language that will work with all parties.
Well, now the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has emphasized the importance of reducing fossil fuel used to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit by the year 2050. But moving on, from heat stress to air pollution and heightened spread of diseases, a warming climate is taking a toll on global health, posing a threat to decades of progress. And at COP28, leaders at the annual UN Climate Summit made a historic shift, pledging hundreds of millions of dollars to address climate-related health issues. And for the first time, the focus was extended to the intersection of the climate crisis and public health.
From heat stress to air pollution and the increased spread of disease, a warming climate is making people sick around the planet, threatening to undo decades of progress in public health.
The climate crisis is a health crisis. It's well overdue. That's 27 COPs have been and gone without a serious discussion of health.
This year's UN Climate Summit COP28 was the first time leaders there focused on public health. Here are some of the key ways that experts say climate change is impacting people's health. Mosquitoes that carry viruses including dengue, malaria and Zika are shifting into new parts of the world as warmer temperatures and heavy rains create more hospitable conditions for them to breed. Take Bangladesh, which is grappling with its worst ever outbreak of dengue. Experts say it has been driven by rising temperatures and a longer monsoon season. while floods in Pakistan last year led to a 400% increase in malaria cases in the country. The disease has also spread into the highlands of Africa that previously had been too cold for mosquitoes. Waterborne diseases are also on the rise. Cholera is spread by contaminated food and water and can kill within hours without treatment. In 2022, 44 countries reported cases of the disease, a 25% increase over 2021. That's according to the World Health Organization, which noted the role played by cyclones, floods and drought in cutting off access to clean water and helping bacteria to thrive. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is the Director General of the WHO.
Changing weather patterns driven by human activity and the burning of fossil fuels is contributing to record numbers of cholera outbreaks. And our warming planet is expanding the range of mosquitoes which carry dangerous pathogens like dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and yellow fever into places that have never dealt with them before.
Heat stress is one of the more obvious health impacts of global warming and is projected to impact hundreds of millions of people as temperatures continue to climb over the next few decades. A July study in the journal Nature Medicine estimated that some 61,000 people died during European heatwaves in the summer of 2022. The heat has also made forests drier, fueling extreme wildfires across the world. In the United States, wildfire air pollution now kills somewhere between 4,000 and 28,000 people every year. Dr. Lujain Al-Godmani is the president of the World Medical Association.
Well, I'm a physician, and I saw firsthand the health impacts of climate change. We see a surge of emergency admissions of heat stress, heat exhaustion, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, mental health diseases. We even saw vector-borne diseases in Europe, and not just in the usual regions. So our health system is already exhausted. They're not resilient enough. They're not strong enough.
As the COP28 summit focused on health, the United Arab Emirates and several charities offered $777 million to help eradicate neglected tropical diseases that are expected to worsen as temperatures climb.
And that's all the time we have for you in this edition of Top Stories. News and updates continue on the other side. Keep watching News 9 Live.
ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text right